Tim, welcome to Let It Ride, a new podcast about Rouleur Derby, presented by the Wide Angle Podium.
And as the official voice of Rouleur Derby on the podcast.
I'm sorry, I need to cut you off. As the official voice of Rouleur Derby on this podcast, I'd like to welcome everyone.
I was reading the wrong part of the script, but this is the podcast about roller derby, almost certainly the greatest fantasy cycling game in the world. Head on over to rouleurderby.com. That's ROULEUR derby.com. Spell it the way a cyclist would spell it. And you can play parimutuel style betting on a variety of propositions and guess, basically rank yourself against the other cycling prognosticators.
Yeah.
Now,
the best part about this game, Tim, it's free.
It's free, and it is built around. So our good friend of the pod, Luke, who built this out, based it off of when he was in Flanders for Tour of Flanders Holy Week, and he saw the gambling that was going on the side, the bookie on the side, right? You could put a euro on, I think back then he was probably putting them on like Cancellara, and you can. That is what he used to build this out. So anyways, head on over. You can learn how to play and all that. But this past week is when it really started to fire up. So we had a Friday, Sunday action on E3 and also Gent Wevelgem. So we'll be quick review of those. We're going to talk about future props. And then we've created our own account for here on the podcast, the Let It Ride, Slow Ride Podcast, Expert Picks. We'll be going through there. And so so
we're going to give you the surefire winners for upcoming props, and you can take our advice or not and see how you score against your favorite podcast about roller derby.
And the E3 Harelbeke, Spencer, right away the first one here for the big classics outside of Milan and Remo.
Huge upset.
Yeah, huge upset when Quick Step won. So this was a cool prop because Luke had set it up so that you had to pick the team. Now, the team picks tend to be one of the harder ones for me. And Quick Step was paid out at 5-2. So for every 2 points you bet, you could get 5. Bora Hanger was second favorite at 5-1 with Sagan. But Quick Step, very strong, looking pretty good with Stuybe's win. Here.
They didn't fool anyone. They didn't fool the house. They didn't fool the players on roller derby. No long shot winners in this one, although there were some ones out there that, Mitchelton Scott at 71, that could have been a huge payout. Like
it could have, but the thing here is Quick Step's going to Quick Step, and I think wisdom of the crowds here, clearly the favorite one. And it also goes into, there was another 50-50 bet that was put up on, are they going to win both E3 and Gent Wevelgem? And most people said no, probably assuming that Peter Sagan was going to win Gent Wevelgem. Because Peter Sagan went off Gent Wevelgem at a 5-1 favorite over the illustrious rider who we will know more and more about, and that is the other at 6-1. But shocking win here. Probably the biggest, longest odds in the history of roller derby. Alexander Kristoff at 75-1 takes the win. Now, he looked like a literal monster, Hulk smash, when he was going up those climbs at the end, and perfectly timed attack to get over the final hill with the lead group. And the beast.
The house may have overlooked Kristoff, but that does not give a pass to the players on roller derby. Everyone overlooked Kristoff. 75-1 is huge. That is the kind of payout you are looking for when you're placing bets on roller derby. That is a career making bet. That is a season making bet if you put money down on him.
AM Smooth, who's in first place right now out of Pennsylvania, put 30 on Kristoff to win at 75-1.
Huge.
And now he did also, did kind of hedge with Ilya Viviani at 50-1 or at 50 points at 9-1. But the point here is Kristoff just smoked the action, and it can move you up. So Spencer, as an expert, are you a fan of kind of sprinkling the points around, or do you like going all in?
So I'm definitely I'm a sprinkler. I'm a medium sprinkler. Like I always tend to shy away from the top pick because the payout, even if I think like in this instance, Peter Sagan was the highest ranked favorite. Even if I think he's going to win, it's usually not worth my while. So I'll be down in that like 3rd to 10th range in the odds, sprinkling around my 5 and 10 points everywhere.
So this is the second version of Rouleur Derby, right? It took a couple year hiatus. Yep. I feel that the original version of Rouleur Derby, there's a lot of 1 point, 5 point bets. The heavy rollers, the big rollers are starting to play now. I mean, we're seeing bets of 500, 100 on some riders, and I like it. It's making it way more exciting for me. So I've kind of changed my pattern of play. I'm kind of going fewer bets and bigger bets. Like I'm going all in. I'm not hedging as much anymore. I might sprinkle a couple down on the bottom of the board on the long shots if they make sense. But to me, just looking at it, I think I'm going to start playing like the who will win bets a little bit more than the show bets, because the show bets are cool because you can pick like 3 people that are going to be, on the podium.
It's a little easier to hit. Yeah.
I thought that I was going to do well with the women's racing, but Luke has been kind of throwing us some curveballs because he's been putting doing it by teams for the most part. And what's happening is like starting to sneak up in that this women's field is a lot more competitive than I thought. I've talked about on the other podcast. I thought that there was just a lot of top heavy teams. There's clearly 6 or 7 teams that are good. And then teams seem to still have like one rider that they can just like go all in on that's going to win. And that's what happened at the women's Ghent. Right.
Now, I want to give a quick shout out to a friend of the podcast, Frank Cundiff, because I'm looking at the women's Ghent and the men's Ghent, and he is number 1 on Biggest Loser on both of these props, putting 500 points on Peter Sagan at 5-1 in the men's race, and going heavy 250 points on Trek Segafredo to win the women's event. That is 750 points out of his original 1,000 that Frank lost in one day on Rouleur Derby. He's going to be digging himself out of a hole for a while.
All right, and let's go into our upcoming bets for this week.
Yeah.
We got Tour of Flanders coming up on Sunday. So we have several bets that are active right now that we've discussed and gone ahead to put in. So the first thing we're going to do, Spencer, is Tour of Flanders for the women. Now, we decided to put 50 on both Bulls, Domans, and Mitchelton Scott. I think that we've kind of come to the agreement that those are the 2 teams that are just going to take the win, because Mitchelton Scott's got 2 fantastic riders, Annemiek, and they have Amanda Spratt. And then you have Bulls Dolmans, which is just stacked through and through with every possible national champion, it seems.
It's tough to vote against that.
And we did put a $5 on Trek Segafredo just because they seem to, they're very close to, I guess, to getting over the hump, you would say, right? Like they're so stacked that at some point they're gonna win. So
I'm calling it the $5 of faith.
The $5 of faith. There you go. So Trek Segafredo is at 12-1. So it's going to be a pretty good one. It's going to help us hedge some of the bets that we put in on Bulls and Mitchelton Scott. So then we're going to go over to the men's Tour of Flanders for the big one. Now we're in agreement. Mathieu van der Poel right now and Wout van Aert are both the favorites with Zednik at 9-1. And we actually currently we put 50 on Greg Van Avermaet to take the win. Now his team's been kind of non-existent, but we do believe that this is the time for him to look good in that Triple C team kit, which is growing on us by the week. So
and he needs a result. Let's 4th and 5th is not what GVA is looking for. I think the youth powerhouse of Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel, they're going to cancel each other out. And it is Greg Van Avermaet's time to shine. And I'm going all in. Now, Greg Van Avermaet.
We did put bets on 4 more riders. We have 10 on Nicky Terpstra, currently at 35-1, and Alejandro Valverde, currently at 60-1. To me, I know I kind of was the one pushing here when we were having our arguments off air, but the world champion showing up at Tour of Flanders, we were very excited when he announced that he was going to be there. And then it was only overshadowed by Matthew Vanderpool's attendance. But the last time I checked, only one of them has won the world championship on the road. And Valverde will find a way to be there at the end. He was at the end of Milan-San Remo. He snuck into the top 10 at Volta a Catalunya. He just won the world championship. Let's see what he does in Flanders. I would not be shocked if he was there at the end. Nicky Terpstra, I think you just got to put 10 on the attacking wily one of Nicky Terpstra. So, and that led into the Fivers of Faith on Alexander Kristoff and Michael Matthews. Now, Bling Matthews, that's kind of, I think we're just hedging our own reputation here by betting on Bling Matthews. So if he wins, we can at least say, we told you.
We knew it all along, And Kristoff obviously coming off the back of his win at 60-1, looks like a smart little fiver to toss out there. So could pay dividends.
Now, one of the best things about roller derby is the goofy propositions, right? Like there's will there be a dog or livestock related crash at the Giro? Will there be a doping violation at the Giro? You know, those types of crazy ones. And Luke did a couple this time. He did both who will be the first over the Patenberg climb at the Tour of Flanders. But the one that we were going to point out this week was he says, which quick step cycling rider will finish first at the Tour of Flanders? Right now, Zdeněk Stybar is the early money. However, Philippe Joubert is a little bit behind, and Bob Jungels. Now, we're not going to go heavy on this one, but I got to say, if you're going to play this game, sometimes you don't want to, like, what fun is it to pick Zdeněk Stybar? He's clearly the favorite on the team right now.
Sure, but anything can happen. It's Tour of Flanders.
Anything can happen. That is right. And when you look at this start list, there are some good riders, and one of them is Bobby Jungels. Who is in a contract year next year. 2020 is his year for the contract when it's up. So I'm thinking that he's going to go a little bit ahead. I think there's a good chance that our Luxembourgian will be the
nailed it
leader of Team Quickstep at the end of the day. He will be the highest one. So we put 5 on him.
I feel you. I think that's a solid fiver of faith for sure. I wouldn't be. I just want to say I wouldn't be opposed with the odds that he's at right now. I think kind of under the radar, Florian Seneschal 25-1. It would be kind of a stunner.
These are the bets that you can make. You can make some movement on the leaderboard. Now, because if you look at the leaderboard, Spencer, you and I are kind of down there, right? So you're like in 70th. I'm in like at like 180th. But I think that the key here is that you just got to spend some money to have some fun, and we're gonna do that. And follow along.
So you mentioned it. I am definitely far ahead of you here in 72nd place. You are down in the dregs, but that's not how this game is going to play. We've started a new account for this one, so people can try to play along as we live record this podcast and see if you can best the collective knowledge of the Slow Ride podcast. So look for our account in the rankings. See if you find us on your nemesis list or your victims list, and let us know.
That's right. And if you have any questions or you want to make fun of us, we'll read it on the air the next episode of the Let It Ride by emailing us at theslowridepodcast@gmail.com. And with that, I'm Tim, the official voice of Roller Derby, presented by Wide Angle Podium.
And this is Spencer, the official voice of Roller Derby, presented by the Wide Angle Podium.
We're going to have to work on that.